You know, we talk about food plots all the time for wildlife, and rightly so. It's a great way to attract wildlife to your property and provide them with the nutrition they need. But have you ever thought about a fruit plot? That's right. An orchard like this can be a fabulous thing to provide on your land for deer, turkeys, and any other wildlife that you're going to come across. A few things you need to understand before running out and buying trees and digging holes is you need to know, you have to map it out. You need to have a plan on how you're going to do this on your property so you get the most benefit from those trees and those trees actually survive to maturity, which is going to be your ultimate goal. The first thing you want to do is look at your property and see how that land lays. And you want to pick out a spot with the best sun exposure and the best protection from the elements. Once they get established, usually it's not that big of a deal, but you need to think about a few things. Number one, wind exposure. Number two, any kind of microclimate that might exist on that property. A frost pocket, for example, a low dip in the terrain can affect by several degrees how that tree is going to survive in wintertime. Frost is going to heave up, it can kill the tree, especially some of your softer fruits like plums and pears and cherries and things like that, that they can't take a lot of that really nasty northern weather that we get sometimes. In the south, not so much of an issue, but you want to pick out a spot. This orchard that I'm standing in is on a south-facing slope, perfect location for an orchard, a lot of sun exposure. It's getting sun from the east all the way when the sun sets in the west, almost 100% sunlight during the day. That's ideal for growing apple trees, plum trees, whatever we want to get out here. The fun begins when you get to actually pick out your trees. But before you pick out your trees, decide what you want. Do you want apples? Do you want pears? Do you want plums? Do you want cherries? You're probably going to want a mix of just about anything that can grow on your property. Look at a climate map, see what's going to grow best in your area, and then err towards the side of caution. If you live in the north, you're going to want cold, hardy trees. If you live in the south, you have a lot more options, a lot more fruit you can plant. The other thing you need to keep in mind, if you're planting, let's say you want to plant an apple orchard, you're going to need to have several strains of apples, different varieties, so they're going to pollinate correctly and you're going to get the maximum amount of fruit. Don't go out and plant all the same type of tree. That's a mistake. Some trees are self-pollinating. Yes, this is true, but a variety is what you're going to want. The other thing you want to keep in mind is trees will bear at different times of the year. So this is really where the fun begins because you can pick trees that are going to bear in late August, early September, mid-September, early October, all the way into November. So you're going to have a never-ending supply of fruit for the deer, and it's going to last you through most of hunting season. There are three other things you need to keep in mind when buying trees is they come in different sizes. There's standard trees, there's semi-dwarfs, and there's dwarfs. Standard trees are those old apple trees you see on a lot of old farmsteads. The big apple trees, they get gnarly, they get old, they produce a lot of fruit, but they take a long time to grow. The basic standard tree is going to grow really high. It could grow 30 feet high or higher, but it's going to take you 7, 8 years, maybe even more, for that tree to become mature enough to start really bearing fruit. It's a long time to wait. Semi-dwarf trees, that's what I prefer. Semi-dwarf trees, for the most part, are going to grow about 20 feet high, not super high, and they're going to bear a lot earlier. A lot of these trees, if you get them 3-4 year transplants, they're going to bear within the first year or two after you plant them. Dwarfs are going to grow a lot faster, they're going to produce a lot quicker, but they're small trees, they're short, they're 7-8 foot trees. You don't want those. The deer are going to come in there and browse them. They're going to kill those trees before you're going to even have much benefit from those trees. So those are the three types of trees you can get. The other thing you need to keep in mind is when buying trees, you can buy bare root stock, which is really cheap. You can get a lot of trees for not a lot of money, but they are what they sound like. They're bare root trees, they're wrapped in burlap, you get them, they look like little sticks and you stick them in the ground and you got to take a lot of care to get those things going. Get yourself some container stock, a little bit more expensive. These trees can be $30, $40, $50, $60 or more per tree, but they're going to come in a nice big pot. They're going to have a well-developed root base. You're going to get that tree in the ground. You're going to be 2 or 3 years down the road from where you would have been had you planted a bare root tree.